Sierra Leone went through a civil war, and when we were there doing, our mission work with mercy ships, they were beyond this civil war, but there were still some scars that remained, and it was very interesting to see some of these the effects of a country that had been through a war. For example, whenever you think of the 1950s, you think of some retro cars, gas stations. Just you can associate it with 1950s imagery. But to combine that retro technology with a modern era is very interesting. To think that so many years ago they were actually more advanced in their society than they are when we were there, it is mind-boggling to think. And you drive through a gas station and they pump petrol into your car and they're still using the same retro technology. It's just so weird. And so you see effects of what was previously a beautiful resort on a white sandy beach, and the beach is still there, but the resort is just blackened or burned to the ground, and you see bullet holes in the beautiful tile that was previously this. They called it the Athens of the West, as in Athens, Greece, because they were so advanced, academically. Really, really cool, but very, very sad at the same time to see what this war has brought them through. Interestingly enough, they don't like to talk about it. And of course, I wasn't there to pressure people into talking about it. That's just rude. Hey, tell me about the Civil War that you went through 15 years ago. That's not cool. I mean, we're there to address their needs right now. Not to say that you still saw emotional and physical scars from these people. The taxi drivers themselves were very quiet. And it turned out that a lot of them were previously, they were rebel soldiers. Not all of them, but a few of them. And when you're in a taxi in Sierra Leone, or Freetown rather, don't assume that, oh my gosh, this taxi cab is being driven by a soldier. However, if their driving is remarkably bad, that's because the government had granted them free licenses after the war to get them working again. They just said, sure, here you go, here's a taxi cab license, go to work. In some ways, that's good. In other ways, that's bad, because the traffic and the driving there is atrocious and extremely dangerous to walk around. And so some of these guys who were previously, child soldiers even, and if you've ever seen Blood Diamond, I can't watch that again. I've seen it once before going to Freetown, and since then, it's very accurate. It really is, about everything from how the people talk to their society and what diamonds did to their society. It's a very accurate movie, and it's also accurate what they put these kids through to be child soldiers, and to mix cocaine with gunpowder, and to give them little cuts on their arms and then rub this substance into their flesh so it'd go directly into their bloodstream. And then they'd give them an AK-47 and just set them loose in a village. Awful, awful, awful things. And so to see these people not want to talk about these experiences, it's not necessarily because they want to suppress these awful memories. It's because they're a very resilient people and they want to move past it. They want to progress. They want to be a world power. And that's so cool. And that's really neat to be in a developing nation like that and to stand next to them and to help them do things like that. I'll give you one example. I met this one guy who was, oh, I don't know, he was maybe in his 30s, and he had both of his hands cut off, which was kind of eerie to talk with this guy who had sort of these pinchers. He went through an experimental surgery that, well, you know those two those two bones in your forearm? They're, what are they? The fibia and the tibia? I don't know, I'm not a medical guy, but those two bones, they basically split the skin so that those bones could be pinchers, so he could still work. This guy was an on-fire Christian. Everything was about Jesus. Everything was about grace. And this guy was a farmer. He had a little baby, and he was married. And he went out with his machete, and he would just till the soil and somehow grab the tools with his two arms. And he was a magnificent farmer. He knew so much. And I would almost warrant to say that he knew as much as a doctor would know, like a doctorate in agriculture. He was brilliant when it came to agriculture. Everything from the chemicals and the chemical compound and the makeup of the soil, and it's like, oh, no, you can tell that this soil is low in potassium because the peanuts don't grow very well here. However, if you rotate the crops, and he would just go on. It was magnificent. But the best experience, the best story that I heard from this guy was the moment that he met the guy who cut off his hands. Now, if a guy cut off your arms and basically ruined your life, you'd probably be pissed off at him, and you may even want to try to kill him with your machete. But not this fellow. He told me the story of how they took an axe and cut off his hands because he refused to join the rebel movement. And then several years later, he met the same man, and he said to this guy, I forgive you. I forgive you, just as Jesus has forgiven the bad things that I have done. Wow. Wow. I have to end the story. It just can't get any better than that.